Hello, PHS. All right, so here's the deal. Basically, my baby started this little barky cough kind of late on Friday evening. And so I took him to the doctor yesterday. He has been running a little low grade temperature. He's going to be okay. But what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to get behind and be in an awkward place when it comes to this whole lecture on the Gilded Age before you guys get out for break. And we all know that a lot of us are going to that fabulous international festival on Friday. So, to make that a little easier for you guys, I am going to record for you a little bit of lecture. Now, with recording a lecture, I tend to talk quicker. So, with that, I just want to prep you. Also, as fate would have it, I do not have kind of my regular lecture guide, but this should go in line with what you guys are going to be talking about. So, it will both be pasted, posted something on Google Class, as well as my boy, Mr. Barron. What up, Mr. Barron for mayor? Woo woo. Everybody say woo woo. Okay. So he will be showing it to you as well. So if there are questions that you did not get, you can get it on Google Classroom. Remember, this cannot be used against me in a court of law. All right. So on Friday, we were talking about going through these forgotten presidents that in both classes we're like, who the heck are these guys? So we started at the end of Ulysses S. Grant's term that ended in, and this is fast because we've already covered it, in 1876. Now we had to elect in 77 with the compromise because things were so off. So with that, Rutherford B. Hayes becomes the new president. He basically doesn't really do anything, and he's replaced in 1880 by Garfield. Garfield, you had the whole reform movement. The talk about getting rid of the spoils system. And so with that, Garfield comes in, he gets elected. Charles Guiteau is like, hey, dude, you should have given me a job. So go to the train station and I'm going to shoot you. And that's what he did. And so he shoots Garfield. Garfield dies in September of that same year, and he is going to be replaced by Chester Arthur. Now, the reason Guiteau shot Garfield is because he knew that the little boy, the dude Chester Arthur, was a reformer. And so he wanted to put him into office. And he does. And just like he was advertised, he is going to pass the Pendleton Civil Service Act. Pen and paper to take a test. Right, right, right. Okay. So then at the end of Chester Arthur's term in 1884, he is going to be replaced with Grover Cleveland. We remember Grover Cleveland is going to save all sorts of money. He refuses a pension bill. One of the things that he does that becomes a big issue, starting with your questions, the election of 1888, is that there is a huge budget surplus. Now, when I look at that, I'm like, what is it like to have a budget surplus? Cricket, cricket. Not in my lifetime, right? So it was pretty cool. They had this big budget surplus. Why do we save money? We save money for the rainy days. So when the bad things happen, we have that money to pull. Now, there's a couple of things to do when you have a surplus. You don't want to tax the people to death. The easiest is to cut taxes. I'm a fan. So that's what they're going to do. So he cuts taxes. Now, this kind of becomes a huge issue in the election of 1888. So, where the surplus originates are with those high tariff rates and everything else that's going on. So, what who runs against Cleveland in 1888 and who wins? Cleveland is going to be running again for the Democrats, and he runs against a guy named Benjamin Harrison. Harrison, for the Republicans, his major contribution in life was, hey, my granddad was president, but he didn't live very long because there was that whole Native American curse where he killed somebody, and it came back to haunt him. And I don't know, the next six presidents after him, well, every 20 years after him, but anyway, who cares? So what's going to happen is Benjamin Harrison is going to win like by that much. So Harrison comes in. The Republicans are back in power, because they lost it for like 4 years, the first time since 1856. And so what happens is we are going to see this change take place. So moving from there, Cleveland is out. Harrison is in. Harrison is a very weak and ineffective leader. However, there is a very strong leader at this time who finds himself as what's called the czar of Congress. His name is Thomas Czar Reed, and he is going to push through that pension for veterans. He also pushes through the McKinley tariff that hiked tariff rates to 48%. So something that normally would cost $100 now cost $148. It was so bad, there was a huge fallout in the next election. In fact, McKinley, for whom the tariff is even named, was not reelected. Although don't feel too badly. He's going to go on to be president. He'll be all right until he gets shot in 1901, but that's another lecture and another story. So let's talk about those high tariffs, people. Who always hates the high tariffs? Well, you have farmers, 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 and farmers. Anytime you hear high tariff rates, picture unhappy farmers. Arr. So, a new party is going to arise in 1892. I do not know why, but this is always a hard concept for students to get. They are called the Populist Party, and their nickname is going to be the People's Party. So, who makes up this group? Well, mostly, oh, I don't know, farmers. Also, some industrialists, but mostly farmers. And most of these farmers are Midwestern farmers, and we'll talk about why. So, what are the things that these guys want? Well, if you know much about farmers, they want money to do what? Inflate. That's right. So, they want high inflation rates. How do you get high inflation rates? Well, they have this brilliant idea that we call bimetallism. Our money at this time is essentially backed by the gold that we have in the bank. However, that's not always going to be true, which is a whole nother lecture for a whole nother day. So, what they're going to do instead is they're going to propose that our money be backed by bimetallism. Bimetallism. What that means is that both, wait for it, gold and silver would back our dollar if bimetallism went into place. Now, to make this possible, there is a decision to start buying cheap money. In other words, to start printing this paper money and coining silver. This inflation would make it easier to pay off your debts. That was their top priority because just like farmers, debtors love inflation. Remember, it's a lower percentage of your income. So their desire was a graduated income tax also. Now, here's how graduated income tax works. Let's say that I make $100 a week. The percentage of my income that I pay in taxes is going to be lower than my friend Mr. Barron here, who makes $10,000 a week. He would pay a higher percentage as well as a higher dollar amount. Today, we call this tax brackets. So, the first people who really push for this are going to be your populists, who are also known in our mind as we are farmers. Dun, 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 dun. So, think farmers when you think populist. Okay, so I'm going to pause us for there for right now, and then I'm going to give you another one in just a second. But before I let you go, let's finish out the populist. So the South was reluctant to vote for populists because of race reasons. The populists reach out to Southern African Americans, and so the Southern whites are like, we just don't know how we feel about that. So that becomes an issue. Also, we're going to see with this some other issues. They want the government to regulate the railroad because freight rates were discretionary. What that means is that the railroad would charge larger percentages to farmers because their bigger businesses would ask them or force them rather for discounts. And so that's going to become an issue. The populists did really well in this early election. In fact, they got 22 electoral votes and they actually won 4 Western states. That's huge for a new party. And so we will pause with the populist right there. Thank you.